Well, guys, we are back to another episode of the Liberal Asshole Show. Episode 20. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now. Hard to believe 2 years it took us to get to 20 episodes. And of course, Harry could not stay up late for him, so it's just me and Vlog. And today's 7 topics are...
PlayStation future bricking, aka Microsoft cancelling PlayStation consoles.
Sony.
Free speech win on BDS. Making fun of idiots ripping Vaush's charity stream. Israeli political crisis, regressive voting bills, GOP blocking January 6th commission, and NFL doing race norming.
I think we should do the Israel stuff since it's 3 topics in one go. So which one you want to talk about first?
I guess we could start with the BDS one, because that's epic.
Well, first off, I guess we could talk about that first, not talk about the Israel crap. So, of course, for all of you who don't remember, we talked about this, I think it was 2 episodes, no, it was last episode when the Israel-Palestine conflict rose up again. And one thing that we support is BDS, which stands for Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, which is to put economic and political pressure on Israel to stop genociding the Palestinians. Unfortunately, though, because of IPAC controlling not just Republicans, but Democrats, so many states across the country make it illegal to support BDS.
Oh, is Israel genociding the Palestinians?
Hell, even my fucking state has that too, which is pathetic. So guess what, guys? If I vocally supported BDS in public, I could actually go to jail. So much for free speech, am I right? Thanks,
yeah.
Ben. Thanks, Ben Cardin. I appreciate that. Can't wait for Vaush to tell me to vote for you in 2024, of course. So, anyways, there's this awesome reporter by the name of Abby Martin. She actually covers the Israel conflict, and it is, unlike most people, objective on it. And she actually challenged this free BDS rulings in I think it was in Georgia, because I think she wanted to do a speech. Matter of fact, Mike covered it too. Let me go find an episode really quickly. But it was actually thrown out, the law too. So that's a huge win for us. So hopefully that will lead to the decline of all these stupid laws.
Yeah.
Because regardless of what you feel on it, trying to silence criticism of Israel and BDS is anti-free speech. It doesn't matter if you agree with Israel, agree with Palestine. It don't matter. You can't silence us. Here we go.
Wait.
Of course, stupid ad.
You need to hear this. Republicans.
Now, let's watch Mike's video.
In February of this year, I was supposed to give a keynote speech at Georgia Southern University. Before the event, I refused to sign a state-mandated pledge to not boycott Israel in order to speak. My invitation was rescinded and the conference canceled as a result. I decided to sue the state of Georgia because signing an anti-BDS clause in order to work in the state is a direct violation of my constitutional rights to free speech and to participate in political boycotts.
So not too long ago in this program, we talked about a lawsuit involving Abby Martin and the state of Georgia as it relates to their anti-BDS laws. And back then I said that this was one of the most important cases relating to free speech in America because the implications of this law are absolutely, truly far-reaching, and how shameless the state of Georgia was in their disregard for the U.S. Constitution and freedom of speech. I mean, if something like this were to stand, I mean, I don't even know what to say. It would just be bad for free speech in America, and if you truly care about freedom of speech, then this is one of those...
It's illegal in many states to oppose Israel genociding the Palestinians.
And it reminds me too, guys, remember back in September of 2019 where I got that bullshit hate speech claim on me and I couldn't upload videos for a week? This was part of the reason.
Was that related to the BDS stuff?
Yeah, it was Dennis Prager had on Charlie Kirk and they were doing a stupid fireside chat about how I'm criticizing Israel's anti-Semitic on that, and they brought up BDS and all that, and I point out how stupid they are for doing it. But of course, since criticizing Israel, and of course a lot of these idiots' eyes, anti-Semitic, and since they have the power to enforce those views with law, like anti-BDS laws, that's why I got suspended for a week on Twitter. I mean, not Twitter, YouTube.
Yep.
Because, criticizing, well, not just criticizing Israel, but pointing out how stupid they are to say any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Point out how silly that is. That's just so hate speech, guys. Don't you know? Fucking
issues where you had to pay attention to the outcome of this. Now, I'll link you to that down below if you want some more details.
5 states have had theirs struck down. Arkansas, Arizona, Kansas, Texas, and now Georgia.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. I thought this was the first one.
But I do want to talk about this again because there's a major update to this particular story. As Partnership for Civil Justice Fund tweets, breaking huge victory in our BDS free speech case in Georgia on behalf of Abby Martin. Federal court rules Georgia's anti-BDS law unconstitutional, violates Abby's First Amendment and due process right by demanding she renounce support for BDS. Co-counsel are Care National and PCJF. Now, in response to this, Abby Martin released a statement, but first via Twitter, she says, proud to announce that we have officially won our lawsuit against the state of Georgia's anti-BDS law, which has been struck down as a result of our case. And her statement reads, I am thrilled at the judge's decision to strike down this law that so clearly violates the free speech rights of myself and so many others in Georgia. My First Amendment rights were restricted on behalf of a foreign government which flies in the face of the principles of freedom and democracy. The government of Israel has pushed state legislatures to enact these laws only because they know that sympathy and support for the population they brutalize, occupy, ethnically cleanse, and subject to apartheid is finally growing in popular consciousness. They want to hold back the tide of justice by preemptively restricting the right of American citizens to peacefully take a stand against their crimes. As the world watches Israeli aggression continue in Jerusalem, the West Bank, and against the population of besiegers in Gaza, it has never been more urgent to advance the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against the Israeli regime. The striking of this law is a necessary and timely opening to build this urgent task. And so now the law that's on the books in Georgia is officially unenforceable because predictably it violates the Constitution. The question was whether or not a court would agree that it violates the Constitution, but to think that it doesn't violate the Constitution would be unthinkable. You would have to not know anything about the Constitution, and it would be absurd for a judge to not see this for what it is. And Georgia knew that they were in trouble, and they knew that this law was unconstitutional because once they learned about this lawsuit, they tried to actually change the law in order to have the case dismissed. So that way, the judge wouldn't be able to accept this case because, well, they changed the law, then we're just ruling on an old law. But thankfully, this went in the right direction, and we finally have some good news in America as it relates to freedom of speech and the BDS movement in America. And anyone who actually purports to care about freedom of speech but didn't actually talk about this case, which is incredibly consequential, I don't believe that they're truly aware of the threats to freedom of speech and democracy.
Yeah, a whole bunch of conservatives claim to be free speech warriors, yet they never talked about this. Don't you notice that, as always?
Of course not. They don't talk about just about anything in regards to leftists getting censored because they love censoring lefties.
And that also reminds me, too, not only about, talking about BDS, but remember, all the, government, issued stuff where they require you to not support BDS, too, in order to get jobs and stuff like that? Those also need to go as well.
I remember that.
So, credit to Abby Martin, what she did here truly is one of the most important things.
You have to tacitly support Israel genociding the Palestinians in order to get funding.
Oh yeah, you silly Aussie? You're anti-Semitic for saying that, you stupid!
To advance this pushback against repressing civil rights and civil liberties in America. And
there are people in Australia who are like that.
That's sad. That stereotype of mine's always true.
Absolutely huge, and I applaud her for this, and I'm just happy that this went the way that it did. It shouldn't be shocking, we shouldn't feel relieved that a judge saw something for what it was as being brazenly unconstitutional, but in America, when up is down and left is right, and people are denying empirical reality, it still feels nice to confirm that what is obvious is indeed the case. The law where they brazenly shut down freedom of speech of people because of their political belief or participation in a movement is unconstitutional, and it's now struck down.
Thank God, and hopefully more go down later, which I need to eventually look up the laws.
They all go down.
Anything to say about this while I look up the map?
Oh, it's really cool that these are getting knocked down one by one. Hopefully some more go down as well.
And we're going to be talking about more of this later on because we got so many topics. Well, here's one map I found. Not exactly what the color coding is, but since Maryland is red and I know it's anti-BDS laws, I guess red everywhere's against us.
Yeah.
This must be recently. Or what were the states you said?
The ones that have been knocked out,
this must be old, too.
It would have to be. Let's see.
Since Georgia's not updated. Here we go, this is directly from Wikipedia. Where's that map at?
It's Arkansas, Arizona, Kansas, Texas, and Georgia. Yeah, the fact that Texas is red it means, there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, this is the year when they were put in place.
Uh-huh. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 5.
At least 30 to 40 states.
Yeah, it's a majority of them that were interacted.
Well, we know Georgia's been taking
the entire Rust Belt. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio.
Well, we know Georgia, of course, knocked off that list. But yeah, this is really bad. This
Georgia,
is all over the
Texas,
place.
Arizona, Arkansas, and Kansas.
Guess what, guys?
And then we got pending for everywhere else except 3 states.
Pending was, looks like Utah. And of course, Georgia, as we already know, has already been taken off this list, so it must be not old recently enough. But yeah, this is really bad. To all you people, even if you don't even agree with us and you think Israel does nothing wrong, guess what? Let us still speak about it. And then you could speak and make us look like fools, even though in the end, we know who the actual fools are going to be. You. But let us still speak without facing some sort of bullshit consequence for this. Because this is BS. Alright, so now the next Israel topic you want to talk about. Ooh, maybe the political crisis.
Yeah.
Now we actually have, I don't think we've ever talked about this. I want to talk about it for a while. So of course, for all of you know, since the last time we talked about the Israel-Palestine conflict, like a few days after the episode went up, there was a ceasefire, but unfortunately it's tenuous at best, and Israel is still oppressing the Palestinians, which is fucking bullshit. But since I think it was over a year now, did you know that Israel has had like 4 elections in the last year or so?
Yes, I remember that.
So for all of you don't know, since we're in America, we don't have a parliament like Israel does. But maybe Vlog would probably explain better since you under a parliament, right? With like coalition government.
Okay, so that means that in the system that Israel had, let me just check something quickly.
But
it's similar, isn't it? Pretty similar. Yeah, it is. It's let's see, Israeli parliament system, parliamentary democracy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's see, be the same. Yeah, I'd say we're pretty similar. So, all right. So, they've got an extra step. Okay, they've got an extra step. Good thing to us, but basically, their parliament. Their uni? I think they're yeah, okay, so they're unicameralists. So they've only got one legislative thing. So that means that they can do they have the one house parliament. So their president is basically a figurehead. So Benjamin Netanyahu
is the actual leader of Israel.
Yeah, the president of Israel is kind of a figurehead. He doesn't have a huge... He gets to appoint the prime minister and who forms the government. So he's got quite a bit of power. But if there's enough for people on the other side to knock him down, then they can.
Another thing that happened is they can't get like a majority government support on anything, so they have to form a coalition, but they can't do that for like last year or so they have to keep doing elections 4 straight times to try and get a coalition government to agree with, and it looks like it finally is going to happen very soon, and guess what? BB is gonna go soon, yay! Thank fucking God, he's been prime minister for way too long, and he's a disgusting piece of shit. Jesus Christ.
He's one of the many in the far-right government that have more than once called for Israel to flat-out genocide the Palestinians.
Maybe you want to talk about more? I looked this up. About the parliament crap.
About what?
About the parliament crap.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so basically their parliamentary system, you got your multiple groups of government, and whichever one a coalition can form the majority will rule.
Yeah, it says they don't have... Go on.
Huh?
Go on.
They've got their stuff. So, like, cabinet has to be approved by the Knesset, and there's got 28 ministries. It's got 120 members, 4-year terms through party list proportional representation. So that's kind of like in Australia, and so voters get to select the party rather than any specific candidate, which is cool. And the party needs to hit a election threshold of about 3%. And so you don't get 3%, you don't get a seat.
So I actually was looking up right now on very soon. I think it's when I'm reading this correctly, within the next week or so, Israel's going to have a new prime minister who's going to serve till 2023, and then the opposition will take over from 2023 to 2025. So Netanyahu will finally be gone. We can only hope that whoever the person that's replacing him is going to be better, which I have no idea. Vaush actually talked about this. He says not really, but we don't know. But God, just Netanyahu being gone will be a massive.
Like at least him be like, yeah, let's not but hopefully he's like at least, yeah, let's not genocide the Palestinians.
Yeah, thank God he's gonna be gone. He's been there for all the way back from 1996 and 1999 and since 2009. He just needs to go.
It's been there a long time.
BB's a fucking neocon, genocidal piece of shit, and a warmonger too. Hopefully that maybe will help shit with Iran too, since you know how much he wants to start shit with them too, and with Syria as well.
Well, we know that that BB wants to start World War III because he's not just saber rattling Iran. He's saber rattling Russia and China, which is of course the fastest way to start World War III.
And of course,
especially since China has allied with Iran through its Belt and Road Initiative.
And also,
there's something we can talk about in the future. The
Yep.
Belt and Road Initiative.
And BB, of course, has a whole bunch of bribery and corruption charges, which is the main reason he's fallen too.
Yeah. Yes, I heard about those. Why am I not surprised?
Oh, BB!
Why am I not surprised that he's...
Bye, BB, in another
bribed and
week or
corrupted.
so. Take your, you're anti-Semitic if you criticize Israel shit to the garbage with you. I hope you enjoy being in prison, even though we know you won't, because all you rich fucks get away with everything. So hopefully whoever replaces him will be so much better, but you just never know. We can only just hope. At least thank God he'll be gone very soon. Alright, so I think we've talked about that. Now let's go to the final topic on the Israel-Palestinian conflict. For all of you, I'm sure anyone's watched the show, we've ripped apart Vaush, who's like a leftist YouTuber that we've watched for the last several years. But this time, he actually did something that's awesome. Like a week ago, he did a 27-hour live stream playing Nintendo 64 games, and he raised almost $300,000 for a Palestinian charity that'll help kids in the Gaza Strip and all that, which is absolutely awesome. And oh my God, you would think that that would be such a good thing that everyone would like that, but both idiots, conservatives, and even insane leftists like him, that are like Vaush, had a meltdown of him doing this. If you didn't hear about that, oh my God, this is insane.
There's so many that were like that.
Yeah. You ever heard of what was his name? Mike from PA?
Oh God.
Oh, he called Vaush. I think he called him a grifter. I think he even accused him that he's gonna like hoard the money for himself to be like a rich asshole and all that. And I think Vaush said, and of course I think
Redacted is just a clout chaser who shits on the people bigger than him and tries to get them cancelled.
I think Vaush said on stream he's actually gonna donate it live on stream so he could show that I'm not keeping the money for himself. He actually looked very hard to find a reputable charity. He actually did research on it. He even talked about it on a stream. He even had the person running the stream, charity on a stream too. So that's pretty funny. But then of course you had the dipshit right wingers that say, "You're just funding Hamas and all these." Oh my God! Did you hear that too? You're funding Hamas for this charity, you fucking idiot. Oh, jeez. Anything to say about that one, too?
Jeez, I just saw the video with all the bullshit idiots who are like, herp-a-derp, herp-a-derp, you gotta herp-a-derp, you gotta send it to Hamas, herp-a-derp.
It's pretty bad that Vaush actually does something we actually agree with him overwhelmingly on, and people shit on for doing something good. If you're gonna shit on Vaush, shit on for things that he actually said that are dumb like we have, but not this. This is just good. Damn. What a bunch of bullshit. Alright, so I think we've talked about that enough. Now, what do you want to talk about next?
Okay, so we got those three through. Now, I know this one will get you mad. How about in the fact that Microsoft's going to cancel your ability to play PlayStations in the future?
It's actually Sony, remember?
Sony, that's right, yeah.
Now,
Microsoft has Xbox, that's right.
Now, this actually doesn't affect me pretty much because I'm not a console peasant. I'm a PC master race motherfucker. But it was actually revealed, I think it was in the last episode we talked about how Sony was going to shut down the PlayStation Store for PSP and PS3s. That actually was somewhat retracted a little bit because of the backlash. I think they're going to hold on to the PS3 version. Unfortunately, the PSP, I think, was still going to shut down regardless, so we have won all that on that. But there actually was this really smart hacker who I found on Twitter. He actually revealed that all the way back from the PS3, this is more of a problem on PS4 and PS5, where they have a system in place where, in order to make sure you're not cheating with achievements in the game, they have an internal clock in the PS3, PS4, and PS5, where if it's not connected to either their server or the clock's battery in the system dies, you can't literally even play the PS4 and PS5 anymore. They become bricks. And that's not a problem right now because the PlayStation Store is still open for PS4. And although the PS4's been out for 8 years, the batteries are probably not dead forever yet. But guess what? Imagine like 10 years in the future. Well, actually, like 10, 20 years in the future from now, when probably PS4 is going to have their store shut down. Imagine the batteries dying then, and I'm sure they might be proprietary, so I'm sure Sony's not going to support that anymore in 20 years in the future. So how the fuck are you going to play your PS4 and PS5 in the future? This is just anti-consumer bullshit, as Mike Korolic talked about too. This should not be fucking allowed. As he even talked about in the video, the funniest thing is when it comes to like console preservation, playing older games, the original PlayStation is gonna last longer than all the previous future stuff. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
That's sad too. That's the problem when you have consoles can focus too much on the internet and greed of like Sony. And of course, you know damn well they're doing this on purpose. Because they want you to get the PlayStation 5, just like in like a few years from now when PlayStation 6 comes out, they want you to buy that, so they're going to brick your PS5 so you can't play in the future.
Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't with the Wii where certain things would cause certain models to implode.
And I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft and Nintendo have something similar to this as well. We just haven't figured it out, but Sony has been really bad the last several years when it comes to customer loyalty services and all that crap. They literally, just like Microsoft, they flipped the last several generations. Didn't you notice?
15 years.
And
Nintendo Wii's been out, so
like I think it was Gen 7 was the number when like Wii, PS3, and Xbox came out. The PlayStation, of course, with PS1, PS2, it was a giant hit for both games. So Sony got really greedy with the PS3. Remember, they had all the shit in the PS3. They were selling it for like $600 when it was undersold for like when it was supposed to be like $1,000 and all that crap. They thought everyone was just gonna buy it no matter what, and then they undersold it for like the first 2 years it came out, and Microsoft was kicking their ass. So, and of course, Microsoft was the friendly consumer system at the time. Fast forward to 2013, now Microsoft is in the better position. That's when they released the Xbox One. And remember that, guys, when that first was announced? Remember, digital only, DRM, you had to have internet to use it, otherwise it was a brick. They had to connect forced on you, NSA was going to spy on you and all that crap. Remember the terrible backlash they had, and well deserved. And Sony, meanwhile, did like the most awesome PR move that you could do at the time. So then they became the consumer-friendly system because they were forced to after the fuck-ups they had of PS3. Now, fast forward several years later, now Sony's back on top again. Now it's flipped again. Now they're being the greedy assholes that refuse to accept crossplay, fucking bricking their systems so you can't play them in the future. Meanwhile, Microsoft is literally like getting on their knees to please you to stick with their systems. This is really bad. This needs to just stop. They need to be legally required to not be able to do this. You can't have it where you can't play your system like years and years in the future. It just needs to stop. So anything you need to say about this?
Just waiting for when Nintendo's already got their terrible things. As I said, one of them was causing their Wii's to implode if you did certain things.
Yeah, Nintendo had a really bad practice too, but once Sony came around, they really were forced to not be able to do anything. They had to like suck everyone off in order to please them. Whereas Sony and Microsoft became the big dogs now.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Which means that is good in that spot.
Yes, so what these people, Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo too, if they ever get like this, they need to think about long term. Because guess what? Not everyone wants to get a new system. Not everyone can afford that. When I buy a system, I intend on playing it for as long as I can. Hell, I still have my 64 that's 25 years old out in the front room. Can you imagine playing a system for that long? For God's sake, probably most...
Work.
It does
I've
work.
heard that there are a few like people who have Nintendo 64s from 1996 that still work.
Just like I have
That's awesome.
Just like I have a PlayStation from 1999. That I'm still use that. It still works.
Nice.
I have my Windows 98 from when I was a kid from 1999 still out there. I still use that and it still works. A lot of people, like me especially, when we buy something, we want to use it for as long as possible. We're not like people like, oh, when the new system thing comes out, we just want to immediately get it and use it for when it's old and then replace it. We want to use the same shit forever, and we should be able to have that option. Not you, oh, we want to do planned obsolescence because we want you to buy a new system. Fuck that bullshit. Fuck that. Oh my god. Anything else you want to say on this? The only thing I'll say too, for anyone who has the PS4, PS5, and any PlayStation in the future, be worried because in a few years, wouldn't be surprised the next 5-10 years if you have a PS4, don't be surprised when it becomes a brick and you can't use it anymore. It's just a waste of money.
Or they pull a Nintendo Wii and decide to destroy them. Literally.
Well, they pretty much already did when they bricked it. Alright, so...
No, I'm meaning in a more literal sense.
Alright, so now what do you want to talk about next?
What we got next? It's, voting bills.
Oh, yeah. Now, we've talked about this, well, not this topic, but remember, like, the last few months, Republicans have been passing, like, anti-trans laws? Well, there's another thing they've been passing a lot lately. Anti-voting rights bills across the country. Because, you know, even though they claim to hate Trump immensely, they're still bitter that he lost. So since they're now having the momentum on their side, as always what happens when Democrats are in power, they are implementing anti-voting rights laws across the country. There's been, I think every single state has had some form of voter right laws, like, tried to pass or written and stuff like that. They're trying to limit early access.
That does not surprise me.
They're trying to limit early access, absentee voting. They're trying to limit mail-in voting. Guy like Georgia was like really bad. They literally were trying to make cut areas where you can vote, which funny enough, as we point out forever and ever, always are areas which are overwhelmingly likely to vote for a Democrat. Very convenient.
And they're also often heavily leaning minority.
Yeah.
So, yeah, get a bit racist there. In fact, wasn't one of North Carolina's ones basically designed to exclude black people?
With surgical precision.
Yeah.
And of course, Georgia made where you can't give out like bottles of water to people to vote because you know.
God, I remember that. That's disgusting.
Because guys, voting is a right. It needs to be as easy as possible to vote. Now, for me, for example, I'm in a more rural area. Until this last election, we had to vote for somewhere else instead of my community center in Ocean Pines. Back in the community center, we were like in and out like in 5 minutes or less. This last year was more like 20 minutes or so. But when I lived back in Woodlawn when I first voted, we went in like at 6 in the morning. We didn't get out till almost 11. That's 5 hours in the morning. Not everyone can fucking wait in line for several hours in the day. Especially if you're places like down in the south and the southwest where it's hot, where water would probably be needed. Maybe giving out food too. Make it easier and comfortable for people to vote. But of course, Republicans don't like that because the more people vote, the less likely you're going to win because your ideas fucking suck and no one likes them. and that's why you have to keep restricting the vote. Here's what you should be doing. Oh, another thing too, because
there's something else that'll probably happen if Republicans take the House in 2022. They're going to try and you can pretty much guarantee at some point they're going to try and get the Voting Rights Act made illegal.
Of course.
So then they can be like, right, black people cannot vote anymore.
And another thing too, I was trying to say, oh yeah, the voting. Remember all the claims of reason why they're doing this because voting fraud, illegal votes, dead
Republicans who have been caught doing voter fraud way more than any Democrat.
I'm gonna point this out one more time to all you conservatives watching. There was a very comprehensive study that was done. I think it was from 2000 to 2016 of every single presidential and midterm election during that stretch. And so that's hundreds of millions of votes. And guess how many verified voting fraud cases they found in them? Slightly, like about 2,000. And most of them, may I add, were Republicans trying to prove that voting fraud exists by committing voting fraud themselves. Which is awesome.
Well, I mean, they proved it. Just showed they're the ones who do it, and not the Democrats.
But you see what I'm saying? Just about 2,000 confirmed voting fraud cases out of hundreds of millions. That is just not enough to sway an election. So your concerns are just not warranted.
But Tim, every single vote for Joe Biden was illegal, and every single vote for Trump was legal.
Ooh, even my mother's vote was illegal for Biden? Aww. But, yeah, this is what you should actually do. Make it secure, yeah, by doing paper ballots, which of course Republicans are always against that. Make voting a national holiday so people can have a day off. Or also do what India does, the biggest democracy in the world with over 1.3 billion people. They have their presidential election over an entire week. Why don't we do that too?
Considering the number of people that are in India, they kind of would need it to go over a week.
Yeah, why it has to be just one day?
Say now, though Australia doesn't have a national holiday, Australia does run their elections on a Saturday, which means that a lot of people who work 9 to 5 are off, so they can go vote. Voting is also compulsory in Australia, and you get hit with fines if you don't vote. We've got early voting, absentee voting as well. And what was something else? And we've got they literally use every single school just about in the country, as well as community centers and other places for voting booths to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, we need to have easy access.
And we have paper ballots as well.
Yeah, like I said, paper ballots. We need easy access. We need to allow mail-in voting. We need to allow absentee voting. Not everyone is able to vote on literally the exact same day and spend hours in voting lines. There are many reasons, especially this last time with COVID, where people want to vote in mail. Safe and easier. So stop trying to oppose it, but we know the only reason why you oppose it because you can't win otherwise because your ideas fucking suck.
Yep.
Alright, so now I guess we talk about the Republicans blocking the January 6th Commission. Are you surprised? Because I most certainly am not. In fact, Kyle did a video on it. If you want to talk about this, wife, go find it.
Cool.
So, of course, for all of you who don't know, that the Democrats, since the January 6th insurrection, have been trying to do a commission on it, like a 9/11 style commission, and of course the Republicans blocked it with the filibuster. I figure it fell one vote short too, believe it or not, of getting it.
So, the big issue now in D.C. is this January 6th commission. The Democrats want a January 6th commission to look into what happened. The Republicans don't want that. They tried to get it through the Senate, like a bipartisan commission. It failed, even though the votes in favor were 54. By the way, that's
the other one.
And the way the system works, how
really 52-48.
So here's CNN reporting on the January 6th commission. Take a look and then we'll discuss it.
Push for truth did not prevail. Senate Republicans just blocked a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th Capitol attack. Just 6 Republicans voted in favor of this effort.
Also, I can barely hear him.
On that dark day, just 6. Keep in mind, 7 Republican senators voted to convict Donald Trump for inciting that insurrection, but apparently an even smaller number wanted answers about that attack on American democracy. Here's Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
The Republican minority just prevented the American people from getting the full truth about January 6th. The Republican minority just prevented the Senate from even debating the bill. Shame on the Republican Party. They're trying to sweep the horrors of that day under the rug because they're afraid of Donald Trump.
Let's get you right to the Hill with CNN's Ryan Nobles. Ryan, the final vote was 54 to 35. How is it? The 35 win.
It does probably make a lot of people watching at home scratch their heads that the overwhelming majority of senators...
It's because of the filibuster, which needs to be reformed.
Minority party intends to filibuster something, and that's exactly what we saw here today. This vote falling short of 54 voting yes, and it did include a collection of Republicans, 6 Republicans: Lisa Murkowski of Alaska voting yes, Susan Collins of Maine, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, Mitt Romney of Utah, and Rob Portman of Ohio. Now, there was another senator, Pat Toomey, from Pennsylvania, I should say, who was not here today. He was among a collection of Republicans that just didn't vote at all. Now, Toomey did release a statement this afternoon saying that he would have voted yes had he been in attendance, but he had a family commitment, but pointing out that had he been here, it wouldn't have mattered, because this collection of Republicans that we were showing you here that were not here to vote would have, aside from Toomey, all voted no, and it would have required 10 Republicans to push the bill forward. So, Anna, there is a lot of frustration among Democrats right now, some suggesting that this is another example of why they need to blow up the filibuster, because it's just so difficult to get anything accomplished. And this was something that just a couple of weeks ago, Anna, both Republicans and Democrats were calling for. Democrats made a number of concessions to Republicans to get them on board. It just wasn't enough.
So what do you think this means?
Because they're never going to concede.
Is this fight within the GOP over?
You know, it's hard to forecast, Anna, because among this group you have a number of Republicans that just won re-election, so they're not going to be in a position where they're going to be forced to face voters in the near future. There's also some that have just decided not to run for re-election, so they're also not going to face the wrath of Trump supporters in an election. But I want to just read for you a bit of what Bill Cassidy, the senator of Louisiana, said after this vote. He put out a statement and he said, quote, "The investigations will happen with or without Republicans. To ensure that investigations are fair, impartial, and focused on the facts, Republicans need to be involved." And this kind of gets to the point of what you're talking about here, Anna, that Republicans, to a certain extent, are hurting themselves by not allowing this commission to go forward, because House Speaker Nancy Pelosi just put out a statement saying that Democrats are not giving up on this, that they are going to continue to seek the truth. Instead of this being an independent bipartisan commission, we're now likely looking at a partisan commission run by Democrats where they'll get to call the shots. And so therefore, that's going to be a good portion of Americans are going to question the final outcome.
That's unfortunate. Ryan Nobles, thank you for your reporting.
There's a lot to say about this. The first point is, I believe there was a poll that showed a majority of Republicans actually blame Antifa for the January 6th attempted insurrection.
I think we talked about that too.
Could have been us that did that. We backed the blue. So we wouldn't do a riot, or we wouldn't do an attempted insurrection, and we wouldn't be aggressive against the officers who were, protecting the area and were doing security. It had to be Antifa. So on the one hand, a majority of Republicans say Antifa did the January 6th stuff, and then the Republican lawmakers turn around and say, no, don't investigate this. Definitely don't investigate this. Okay, so, but you guys hate Antifa. You definitely would investigate it if you really thought it was Antifa. You know it's not Antifa. Of course it's not Antifa. So, I mean, that contradiction really says everything. It's whatever is convenient in that exact moment. Hypocrisy be damned, logic be damned. That's what the Republicans are going to do. So I think that's probably the most important point here, is just how full of shit they are. Antifa did. That wasn't MAGA people. That wasn't QAnon people. That was Antifa people. Oh, really? Let's investigate the Antifa people. No, definitely don't do that. I wouldn't do that at all. Don't do that. Definitely not. If they really thought it was Antifa, they'd be like, yeah, investigate right now. Of course they can do it. Anyway, so that's probably the biggest point. Now, after that, listen, got a little bit of a hot take for y'all on this. I don't know how many of you are going to like this, but I got to give you straight dope. I got to give you my real opinion on this. The reason why Democrats are doing this is simply because they want to run on this in the midterms. Period. Yeah. So in other words, if you focus on this, and you talk about this, and you do it nonstop, and it's what the media covers, and it's what you talk about, this doesn't require Democrats to deliver on anything else substantively and policy-wise. Or so they think. They think if we just talk about this all the time, we investigate this, and we keep this front and center, people aren't even going to notice that we're not pushing for the substantive things that would improve their lives materially. That's what they think. That's what they think. Now, by the way, I think that calculation is wrong. I think Democrats do focus on this as much as they want to. The midterms are going to be ugly, but that's the calculation that they've made.
I'm actually not sure if I agree on Kyle on that. If they talk about the insurrection, that might actually help somewhat too, because that was really, really bad. You can't just ignore.
Yes,
but
definitely.
But of course, they're gonna probably fuck it up in some way too, because they're idiots.
Hey, what's the path
of course. And they're also enablers to Republicans and the alt-right, so...
Including Vaush.
No, on the talk out. Well, we have control of the House, the Senate, and...
Vaush is a weird one. We'd have to get in the nitty-gritty on that one.
So let's just, I don't know, talk about Republicans bad, January 6th bad. Let's just suck all the air out of the room by only talking about that stuff. So, by the way, they admit this at the end too in this clip. Democrats don't even need the Republicans for this. I don't know why they're trying to create some sort of investigation through the Senate when you can have an investigation through the executive branch. Biden controls all of the...
Because they're desperate for bipartisanship, remember? Just like Biden is. They don't even need them. And also, why would you want them there? They're not going to help. They're going to actively undermine it. So, fuck them. A lot of them were in cahoots with the insurrection in the first place, so fuck them.
Yeah, definitely.
You can do an investigation like that. You don't need any Republican support. So why would you try to do this, what you just did? Because it's a show, because it's kabuki theater, and so now they get to spend a week out there wagging their finger and saying, oh, the Republicans didn't even want to look into the horrendous attack on our nation's capital. Isn't this so terrible? Isn't this so wrong? Isn't this so bad? Shouldn't we talk about this until midterms and not talk about anything substantive that would improve your life? Yes. So if they want to do an investigation, just do the investigation. You don't need the whole, let's go through the Senate, let's vote on it, we don't have to vote on it. This is peak Democratic silliness. Now, Biden's approval rate, just so you understand, has been slowly slipping. There's a time where it was 60%. Now it's all the way down to 54%. I submit to you the reason why is, after the COVID relief package and the $1,400 checks, he peaked. Ever since then, it's been slowly falling because people are like, okay, now do the next materially good thing for me. And they haven't been doing any materially good things for you now. So yes, that approval rating is going to keep falling because people's lives are going to get worse and worse. And this is how Democrats want to fill that gap and how they want to run. They want to focus on January 6th. Now, by the way, the final point, this is probably the most obvious point, is we know what the fuck happened. We know what, you don't need to study it. We know exactly what happened. The argument that Trump supporters, QAnon people, were drunk on Stop the Steal lies, were drunk on conspiracy theories, and they wound up storming the Capitol, being violent. Mike Pence had to run to save his life because they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Mitt Romney barely got out of Dodge in time.
And of course, a bunch of Republicans helped them do it too, remember?
We have, guys,
I remember that.
I've shown you the video from the Capitol riot. It is intense. It is scary. Now, the only area where I differ from the mainstream Democratic narrative is very simple. this never had any chance of succeeding, and it didn't because there's nobody who's like a higher up in the Pentagon or some shit who's actually ready to press a button and do a coup where like the army or the police or whatever take over the White House and like force Trump to remain president. So that's why people came after me for calling it a riot coup.
I've seen that too.
The riot coup is simply because it was so disorganized and there were no real higher ups who were connecting the dots and giving it a chance to work. So I mean, I guess a better way to talk about it would be incompetent coup attempt or incompetent insurrection, or I think riot is fair enough, right? So we never had any hope of working. But we know exactly what happened. This isn't like it's not a mystery that we need to solve, that we need to dig into. We know exactly what happened, and 90% of the Democratic arguments on what happened are exactly correct. So you don't need to study. You don't need to look into it. Because what's going to come out with some sort of commission that studies it? Here, I'll answer. Nothing. They've already arrested a lot of the people who were involved in it. So what are you going to do study for? We need to study to get the people and bring them to justice. You already got the people brought to justice. So what's the point? Again, the point is culture war. That's the point. Hey, let's talk about this other thing, which has nothing to do with the $15 minimum wage, has nothing to do with whatever, fill in the blank with anything, a UBI check, a Medicare for all public option, whatever. It has nothing to do with the substantive things that are going to improve your life. Let's only talk about this thing nonstop until the midterms, because it gets me off the hook from having to do anything, and it'll make it so that my base defends.
One thing I would say, though, is maybe the commission would be useful if, let's see if there was indeed Republicans or other Republican officials that helped instigate it. What about the cops, too? Because there are a whole bunch of them that just let them come on in, too. Let's look at that.
Me, even though I'm not actually fighting for them or fighting for the American people. That's the whole point. So, listen. Don't get it twisted. Theater matters in politics. But I would argue the kind of theater that matters the most is theater towards substantive ends. So it has to be, you can take on a fight that you know you're going to lose as long as the fight is inherently virtuous in and of itself and will improve people's lives. This is not that. This isn't inherently virtuous, and it's not going to improve anybody's life. The whole point of this is just the show for show's sake, the show for the culture war's sake. So I think we're wasting time here, and they're doing that on purpose. Because this is all they have. In the same way that all the Republicans have is the culture war. All they talk, woke ideology bad. Let's talk about that for fucking 24 hours a day. Same way the Republicans have that, now the Democrats are going full. January 6th bad, Trump's still bad. Let's talk about this all day. Because nobody wants to actually fight for the material improvement of your life. So that's where we are. And it's a damn shame, but it's an easy way to trick the media into only talking about this. An easy way to have the Democrats fill the room with noise without actually saying anything. And listen, at the end of the day, we know exactly what happened. It doesn't require further study. Now it's time to actually, if you want to do the investigation, but don't give me the bullshit we got to go to the Senate. Just do the investigation on your own through a federal agency, and Biden has the ability to do that. So go ahead, do that investigation, and don't really care, but focus on the actual things that matter. Improving people's lives and doing it right now, and they don't want to do it.
Yeah, that is true what Kyle said. But at the same time, I think if they focus on it too, it definitely would probably have a lot more sway than what the shit Republicans say. Especially since no one agrees with them, and everyone but them thought the insurrection was bad. So I'm not sure exactly. Yeah. So I'm not actually sure if Kyle's fully right on that. That's going to actively hurt them. It might be a mixed bag, might help them a bit. So we got to say though about the Republicans blocking it though. Of course, no surprise.
I'm not surprised because they're. Not only were they enabling them, not only were they supporting them, it probably is going to find out that there are a couple of... no, they were in session. I was going to say that it wouldn't surprise me if there were a couple of Republicans who were actually participating in the insurrection, like literally as part of the rioters. I guess it could be more metaphorical, like trying to guide them to where Democrats that they wanted to hang, draw, quarter, behead... chop their head off, put them head on a spike, chop up their bodies and feed them to each other.
I think I remember reading somewhere that some officials, staff members that work for certain Republicans actually were involved, so that doesn't look good for them, that's for sure.
Aye, if that's true, that's even worse.
And then, of course, like we said, the cops, too, letting them get through the barriers in certain areas, too, remember that. So, yeah, the commission would probably be needed, and you don't need Republicans. They're not going to help you. They're going to undermine it, so fuck them. They're the problem. They need to go. Just fuck them. All right. Yep. So I think we're on to our last topic.
And still doing race norming.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. God, I didn't even know this was a thing until...
just now.
God, yesterday, I think it was.
Same here. So
TYT reported
now,
on
of course, I'm a huge NFL fan, so I have really good knowledge on this. So for the last 10 years or so, there's been a massive concussion lawsuit in the NFL because concussion... The NFL, for all of you don't know, has been undermining concussion awareness in the NFL all the way back in the 80s. They finally were forced to, give up pretty much in the 2010s, and they're still doing a $1 billion lawsuit, which I believe has been going on since 2013, but hasn't been settled yet. But one of the things that was just revealed recently, that the NFL was doing a thing called race norming. See, of course, when you have concussions and other, head injuries, you suffer cognitive decline and dementia, all that stuff. So, for NFL players that get this, if they could show that this happened because they were playing in the NFL, they have a chance to get, extra, healthcare benefits and stuff like that. But for black players, which remember, 70% of the NFL is black players, the NFL, when they point this out to them, they would do a thing called race norming, where they would automatically assume black players already were cognitively not functioning. Basically, that they're stupider because they're black, so therefore, their injuries did not happen because of the NFL, therefore no money for them.
Because they're stupid apes, because they're stupid and intellectually inferior.
Yep, unfortunately, that's a really big thing in the history of sports with racism. And unfortunately, the NFL, although not as bad like the MLB, which literally had rules where they did not allow black players at all, the NFL did not allow black players, but it wasn't like legally enforced on the rules. It was more like George Preston Marshall forcing the other owners to follow his racist views. But this is really, really bad. Vaush even talked about this. He actually didn't even think that the NFL's doing it because of racism. He thinks they're doing it just so they can get out of paying them, which wouldn't be surprised because they're greedy sacks of shit. And like I said, they've had a history all the way back in the 80s to deny that there's a correlation with concussions and in the NFL with injuries. So I wouldn't be surprised at that, but this is really, really a bad stain on the NFL, and they need to fix this shit immediately. What's even more disturbing is that this started in, not like in the leagues past the very beginning when they started. No, this race norm and stuff, this started in the 90s. That's the more stunning thing. That is insane. Yikes. And you said you want to talk about the AFL for you guys down there about this?
The Australian Football League. Oh, God. When did the AFL finally acknowledge
concussions?
Let me check this.
But yeah. Well, while you look at
concussion management start tests, they've been doing so it's quite recent with concussion issues in the AFL is very recent, and they're actually copying let me check this. They're actually getting lawsuits. Yep.
Yeah, because this is like a new thing.
Yep, there is. Yep, the AFL's getting a class action lawsuit around concussions as well
for players to get health benefits that they deserve. Now,
well, more so to let's see. Covered for concussion as conditions of employment.
Yeah, and I wonder, do you know if the AFL actively denied correlation with concussions like the NFL did?
Possibly, yes.
I wouldn't be.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did. I'm just trying to find any of it. Because it's really come up recently with.
Yeah, this is
the AFL that apparently the players have been returning too quickly, of course the big deadly chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
CTE, you mean?
Yep.
That's
which is absolutely horrific when it comes to repeated head knocks.
Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about that in a bit if you want to keep talking.
Yeah, and so talking about that, they're potentially working on a concussion settlement pathway. They're finally doing stuff to sort it out, and so they've made progress on it recently. They've updated their concussion protocols, so that means 1 and potentially 2 games players are out due to concussion. Yeah, it's got to be sidelined for at least 12 days instead of 6.
Yeah, the NFL started doing that after 2010 when the concussion shit really hit the fan for them.
Yeah, it's recently hit. It's hit much more recently in the AFL. So yeah.
Yeah, this is honestly pretty bad since not just the race norm and crap, but the concussion stuff too. It's bad enough that the NFL has been denying it since the 80s, but the fact that it's not talked about enough, which it should be, because have you seen the shit that happens to players when they have CTE? They fucking literally kill themselves, for God's sake. And the really bad way is they also kill themselves to preserve their brain so they can have a test sooner, which is really terrifying to think about. Like Junior Seau, do anyone remember that? And do you remember aggressive, possibly like what happened to Aaron Hernandez? Remember him? So, yeah, this is really bad.
That in 1 or 2 in the AFL. And I know that a couple of motorsport drivers in NASCAR, for instance, they've is it? I know that Dale Earnhardt Jr. will donate his brain to science when he dies. Who was it recently? Is he still alive? Yes. Okay, so he's still alive. I'm trying to think. Oh, who was it? It was one of the NASCAR drivers.
And does anyone remember Mike Webster, Hall of Fame center for the Steelers in the 70s and 80s, when he died at the age of 50? Oh my God! When they checked his brain, he had like the worst case of CTE ever, and that's what helped kickstart the concussion issue in the league. And they said his head had enough damage to be equivalent to 25,000 automobile accidents in 25 years of playing football.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, Fred Lorenzo, though I don't know how many. Fred Lorenzen. I don't know who it is, but this is the guy that wasn't the guy I was thinking of, but this would be him. No, he's still alive. Okay, he's a guy. He's battling dementia after his career, and when you hear a bunch of drivers, let's see if we can get another one.
Yeah, I'm reading up the symptoms right now. Guys, listen to how bad this is. Let's see the symptoms. First stage symptoms are confusion, disorientation, dizziness, headaches. That's probably like immediately after you got
there we go. There's a guy who died very recently. I think he might have been Eric McClure, who had several huge crashes, a couple of massive crashes in his career. And he's had...
And by the way,
a musculoskeletal disorder in the summer of 2019. He had a thing with, what is it?
And by the way, take a look at this. This is a normal brain, and on the right,
renal failure. Holy shit!
And the brain on the right is an advanced case of CTE. Take a look at that.
Far out.
Yeah,
Jeez.
And the symptoms, of course, memory loss, social instability, impulsive behavior and poor judgment, increases aggression, increased advancement of dementia, movement disorders, hypomania, speech impairments, sensory processing disorders, and all this depression and suicide, which I said earlier is a big thing with players recently. After like 20 years after retire, killing themselves.
Yep.
Oh my fucking God. The fact that this is not talked about enough, and since the NFL covered up, and of course everyone's talking about, the flag, the kneeling protest, bad calls by refs, all this crap. Focus more on this. This deserves way more credit. Way more pressing matters than anything else. And of course, hopefully the players win their lawsuit against the NFL. The fact that it's been going on for 8 years and still nothing's happened is pretty pathetic. And of course, this race Mormon bullshit too. How the hell does anyone seriously think about this? Oh my God. Well, I know, of course, racists think about this, but this is the 90s when it started. The NFL was pretty progressive for a time compared to other leagues by then. The fact that this started under them, that's a really bad stain for them too. And maybe Vaush is probably right. Maybe it was just money instead of being racist, but it's a really terrible excuse that looks bad on their part.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know if I want to talk about this anymore. It's so infuriating. And of course, another thing too is, it's going to take a long time too, because do you know about helmet-to-helmet hits in the NFL?
No.
That used to be a really common thing back then. That was a big cause for concussions, helmet-to-helmet hits. A big problem is that a lot of players still to this, well, not coming up, but for like all the way up to like the 2010s, they were pretty much trained to do hits like that. And because of that, they pretty much can't stop doing it, even though the league has rules that ban that and you can get suspended for it. They still end up doing it because they're too used to it. So they started like in mid 2010s from the kids up like in middle school and high school football, they teach them not to do that. And that's going to be like another 5-10 years before those players start joining the NFL. So we're going to probably still be seeing like helmet-to-helmet hits deliberate for a long time too. And that's a really big issue too with concussions.
Yeah.
And another thing too is players, if you don't know, not as much probably anymore, but back then, they would actually lie about their injuries. Like Brett Favre, a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Packers. He said he got numerous concussions for his entire year, even during games, and he would still play. He would just lie about it. Because if they said they got injured, they would be taken out of the game, and they badly want to win. And that, oh my God, that used to be a really bad thing too. The league pretty much pressures teams now make players come out if they're like really badly injured, especially the head hits and all that crap. And I remember that too. I remember that in 2010, Week 6, October 7th, 2010. Falcons at Eagles and Steelers at Browns. I watched both games like back to back. 2 back-to-back helmet hits in both of those games, and that's what led to the concussion discussion since the last decade, and the rule changed that next year. Oh God, I just remember Austin Collie too. Oh God, look at Austin Collie's hit against the Jaguars in 2010. That was really bad. He was out cold on the field for minutes from that blatant hit he took. Yeah, you need to look up NFL helmet-to-helmet hits later when you get the chance, and you'll see them. You'll even find the 2010 plays I was talking about. But yeah, this is really bad. They need to train the new players coming up, because the old players now in the league are not going to change. The new players coming up like kids, they need to be trained not to do that. The league needs to stop denying it and give the players their healthcare benefits and all that. And we can only hope shit just changes. And that's not just the NFL too. All sports that have injuries like this, because as bad as all these injuries, like all the broken body parts and stuff like that, players can get disabled from sports. Yeah. This concussion stuff is really bad. I don't think there's any other injury that literally makes players kill themselves because they can't comprehend anything right. Oh my fucking God. I think I've talked about enough of this.
I reckon when it comes to CTE in the Australian supercars, there's going to be a rash of it in the next 10 years.
And of course, it'll take forever for them to finally change it, I guess. I wouldn't be surprised, too, if they're denying it because they learned from the NFL, probably, too. Yeah, it's really bad. Alright, I think we've talked about this enough. Hey, we got under an hour, too. It's been a long time since we've done that, I think.
Yeah.
So, I don't know when we'll do the next episode. Hopefully, Harry will be able to join us next time as we hopefully get some more topics to talk about. So, see you guys next time.